Yes. Stacy Giomi,
Here.
Mike Jones,
Here.
Stephen Kim,
Here.
Bobby Rader.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. At this time, the public is invited to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant or within the authority of this public body. Any public comment?
I see no public comment, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to item 5, possible action approval of minutes. We have 2 meeting minutes to approve here, so we'll start with the first one, the meeting on October 12th, 2020 of the CTA board meeting. Any revisions or requests from the board of changes of the minutes? If not, I'd like to get a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 12th meeting.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next, we'll move on to the November 19th, 2020 CCCC and CTA special joint meeting minutes. Does anyone see any reason or have any changes on that meeting minutes? If not, could I get a motion to approve?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm having a hard time.
Desi, the Sierra Room codec is muted, so we can't hear the meeting.
Test, 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 test,
Sorry.
test. Todd, can you hear us now?
Thank you, Desi.
Thank you.
I didn't hear that. Okay. I'm sorry.
I can hear you now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. So if we can, I ask for a motion for the approval of the November 19th, 2020 CCC and CTA special joint meeting of the minutes.
Ms. Stacy, I'll move to approve as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on.
Just, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear a second on that as a point of order.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, motion passes. Next, item 6, possible action, adoption of the agenda. Does anyone see any reason to move the agenda around? The agenda will go forward as presented then. Next to the consent agenda on items 7 and 8. Does any board member at this time want anything pulled for individual discussion on either item 7 or 8 on the consent agenda? Does any member of the public would like anything pulled from the consent agenda for individual discussion? Hearing none, if I could get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Please get a
As
second.
presented, sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda motion passes. On to item 9 for discussion only, presentation by MOPO and possible discussion regarding a mobile platform for matching consumers with recreational activities in Carson City. David, you want to give us a little background before?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. For the record, David Peterson, Executive Director with the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. So I'm very pleased, you see on your monitors in front of you, we've got Mr. Martin Hall, who's the CEO and the founder of MOPO. We also have Joe on, and I can't see Stephanie, so I'm not sure if she's on yet or not, but a great team with MOPO, and I want to thank Lydia here because she engaged with these folks several weeks ago and brought them forward so I could have a conversation with them as well. And I'm excited to bring them in front of all of you today, because we're always trying to look, what's new from a technology standpoint, and using, mobile platform. It's driven by artificial intelligence, and this idea of kind of marrying up people's recreational activities and experiences in an ecosystem is very interesting to me, and I hope after Martin and the team kind of gives you a little overall breakdown of what we're talking about here, you all will feel the same way. So I'll introduce Martin real quick. He's held a number of strategic roles at Intel. He was also a founding member of the company's artificial intelligence strategy team. And he's truly an entrepreneur. It kind of flows through his veins. So prior to Intel, he had previously founded and led 3 software companies to acquisition as well. So he has a great background here, and his team members are also very, very wonderful folks with great diverse backgrounds as well from a marketing perspective, and also touching on tourism. So again, I'm very excited to have Martin here today to talk about a partnership, and truly that's what this is. We're potentially here a launch partner for and with MoPo to develop and kind of show you what again, his team have been working on over these past few weeks, and how it can kind of help Visit Carson City, but I think more importantly, expand our reach, with current visitors, potential and future visitors, to grow our economy and to connect with our businesses. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Martin Hall, and Desi, ask if you can give Martin the share screen capabilities, please.
Thank you, Dave. Let me just make sure I can share my screen. Yeah, so give me 1 second if you don't mind. Is that should now be working, I think, for everybody.
So Martin, this is Dave. We see you right now. There we go. Beautiful.
Excellent. Okay. So I'll do a switch because I'm going to give everybody a demonstration. But first of all, let me just say a couple of thank yous. We really, really appreciate the opportunity to come and present. So thank you to the whole board for enabling us to be here today. I want to say a special thank you to Dave and Lydia because they're choosing and working with us to be part of a vanguard of DMOs across Northern California that we're engaging with. And in such difficult times, it takes, courage and commitment and innovation to be part of something like this. So we've really appreciated the engagement, with Dave and Lydia in the couple of months we've been talking with them. Dave mentioned my colleagues, Joe and Steph. I wouldn't be here without, the help and assistance of them. And to give you a little bit of background on the company, we founded the company in February. So we've been going for 10 months now. We number just under 30 people. And we are planning to launch in Q1 of next year. What we're going to talk to you about and what we're going to share with you in terms of the application is really trying to give you a flavor of everything that we're about and what it is that we're going to be bringing to market. So today, really what I want to do is just cover a little bit about who MoPo is, talk about the nature of the relationship that we're discussing with Visit Carson City, and then, like I said, just give you an idea of the application by demonstrating it to you. And I'll leave a little bit of time for questions. I know that, there's tightness around this agenda. So let me see if I can click through onto the next slide here. Hopefully that has gone forward. Dave, can you confirm that the slide has moved on?
It has, Martin. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So Dave mentioned a little bit about this, but first and foremost, what we're doing is we're building a platform. And that what we mean by a platform, think of it as essentially, a combination of technologies which include the cloud, which include a lot of sort of artificial intelligence, and ultimately are fronted by a mobile application and a web application. We'll show you the mobile app today, but it's an AI-driven platform. It's for the entirety of the recreational activities ecosystem. So ultimately, we're all focused on consumers. And obviously Visit Carson City as a DMO looking after the region wants to put all the kind of goodness and businesses that Visit Carson City has in front of consumers. But the platform we're building is not just for consumers, not just for operators of activities, it's for the whole ecosystem. So we've spent, close to a year now talking to different members of this ecosystem about what they need from a platform like this. And we've basically built it out for these different constituencies that you see here on this pinwheel. At the end of the day, the value that we're looking to create is sort of starts and in some respects ends with consumers. What we're looking to do for consumers is allow them to much more easily find, plan, and share activities that match their interests, and to basically connect them with regions that are affinities for them as well. And in addition to that, create value for all the stakeholders in this ecosystem and bring them together, not just in the platform, and I'll show you this, but within a social network that's built into this platform. So that's what we're all about. In terms of the DMOs, just to give you a little context that we're engaged with across Northern California, there are several in the Greater Tahoe region. We will be launching, by the way, in the San Francisco Bay Area across wine country and all the sort of dry pockets that can be touched from the San Francisco Bay Area, which includes the Greater Tahoe region. In terms of the partnership that we've been discussing with Dave and Lydia, perhaps the most important thing in such challenging times, for any organization is that no fee is involved in this. So we're not asking for a single dollar, and we're looking to minimize the amount of time that has to be invested in the partnership. But ultimately what we're focused on is helping Visit Carson City across several areas. Number one, increase the economic impact, that you together with us have on your region by basically attracting more qualified customers to drive room nights in the hotels and to drive demand for all the businesses in your region. We are focused on things to do. So the platform itself isn't about, finding hotels. It's really a complement, to that hotel side of things, and very much a complement to what Lydia and Dave already have on the Visit Carson City website with all the attractions. And I'll come back to that. Number two, it's about driving brand visibility and for Visit Carson City, the DMO, and for the local operators of activities, and essentially connecting these organizations with these qualified customers in the mobile application. We're very, very conscious, as I mentioned, of operating costs. And one thing that's important to us from a sort of culture and value system within MoPo is stewardship of the local environment. We're hearing a lot from the DMOs we're engaging with about the importance of protecting the region and how that has become more challenging, in this pandemic time in terms of, behavior of new visitors to regions like, the Greater Tahoe area. And so we're very, very sensitive to the role that we can play with the platform in partnership with organizations like Visit Carson City to get the right messages to these consumers as they come, perhaps in some cases for the first time, to these regions. So that's the nature of the partnership. As Dave and Lydia know, all that we're really focused on is essentially making the content that's already on the Visit Carson City website available through the app itself. So I move on to just talking about the mobile part of the MoPo platform for consumers, and I'll show you this in a moment in the demo. We're about matching consumers with relevant experiences, whether it's somewhere they're visiting or somewhere they live. And David mentioned to us in one of our conversations recently that that's important for Visit Carson City to help essentially matchmake locals with local businesses. That's part of what we do. And also to connect consumers socially with sources of inspiration. So if they have particular interests, we want to basically connect them with experts with respect to those interests or regions. And that's part of giving more of a voice and creating a mobile channel for Visit Carson City to these consumers who'd be interested in the Greater Tahoe region. For the activity operators, the people who run, the things to do as businesses, we want to match those operators with those relevant customers and essentially bring qualified customers to them and provide an environment for what are often small businesses where they can just continue to connect with relevant customers. and really democratize this platform so that no matter what the size of a business, they can get connected to relevant customers within the platform. And finally, I've really mentioned, the sort of focus from a DMO point of view is just creating a free turnkey platform to promote the region, the brand of Visit Carson City, and to help sort of pull through connections for the local economy and businesses. So with that, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch now to the application itself. So hopefully, Dave, again, can you confirm, because I've just sort of switched here, that you can see this?
Yeah, we see, this is Dave Peterson for the record. Yep, we do see it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So what you see here, because it's sort of too difficult for me to kind of operate the app at the same time, but this is video that we took earlier today of the actual application. It's still a little bit of a work in progress, but this is the actual mobile app running on an iPhone. So I'm going to play, we captured it as a video, so I'm going to play this video. I may stop at a couple of points, but what you see first on here is essentially the homepage of the app. What a user does, as they do with any mobile application, is they install it from the App Store. We support, by the way, both iPhones and Android devices with this. When you register in the app, you do your regular thing of creating an account. The only thing you do differently in Mopo is you tell us a little bit about your interests, and those are described in hashtags. So as you see on the screen here, if somebody registers and say, I'm actually interested in biking and trails, and I'm really curious about this sort of rail bike stuff that I've heard about, then somebody would represent their interests in hashtags. And so what you'll see here as I sort of play the video is that you can, if you look up the top, you can easily switch to, well, what's near to me right now that matches my interests. If I live in Carson City, they can just hit home and say, well, what's around me that matches my interest? And if I'm visiting Carson City, then I would put in Carson City as a place that I was going to visit, and it would bring up a feed of experiences, which is what you see here. So every experience, we, by the way, have done some preliminary integration of the, let me just stop this for a moment, some preliminary integration of the content on the Visit Carson City website. So that's what you see actually here. Let me go back to the right place here. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. So these are what we call experience tiles. So every experience on the Visit Carson City website gets reflected as experience tiles with a summary of information about it. And these experiences that you see here all match those interests that were reflected up in what we call the configuration panel. So a user can scroll through the different experiences that are in the experience feed. They can also click on information about Visit Carson City. So each of those experience tiles basically reflects, number one, the association with Visit Carson City. So a user can click in, discover Visit Carson City as an organization, and follow Visit Carson City. They can also, and you'll see this in a moment here, click into, we can also show all the experiences that are associated with Visit Carson City, but you can also click into an individual business, find information about that local business and the experiences they run, which is what you see here, clicking on sort of DT Railways and showing, well, they do this rail bike experience. So then what we also have in the app is the ability to basically search. So this is sort of a classic search capability. So I could look up the Kit Carson Trail. I'm going to stop this for a moment because one of the things that we're doing, we've heard this from a number of DMOs, and Lydia has been pretty innovative in use of 360-degree images and videos. So unlike just about any platform that's out there today, we've introduced support for sort of immersive 360-degree content. So what you see here is 360-degree images that Lydia and her team have worked on, and we support that within the platform. So you can see that ability to navigate for users so they can actually explore these pictures interactively. Every experience tile, whether you find it in the experience feed or through search, takes you, if you click on it, to more information about that experience. So what you see here is the detail of that experience. Users can click through different images. They can add reviews to this. I'm going to stop it for a moment because one of the other interesting things we've done in this sort of pandemic times is allow businesses to reflect, the safety protocols they've put in place, but also allowing consumers to say how safe do they feel. So what you see there in the middle, that safety score, essentially reflects how safe people have felt when they visited a particular experience. I'm going to let this continue here for a little bit. What I'm also going to show you here is the social feed. So integrated within the platform is essentially a vertical social network. What that means is that it's focused entirely on things to do. So think of this as sort of an Instagram or Facebook, but dedicated to things to do for that whole ecosystem users that I showed earlier. And it's all fused within the Mopo platform. And there are all kinds of integration features that, that we've made available here so that a local business can promote and connect with on an affinity basis, like I said, to consumers who are interested in their kind of experience in that region. And so what you'll see here is an example of, BT Railway posting about and basically highlighting, their seasonal activity here. What you also see as it scrolls down is the ability for Visit Carson City to drive again on an affinity basis their messages to all locals who are followers of theirs and people who are interested in potentially visiting Carson City. And finally, what we have, and there's a lot of depth that I don't have time to show in the application, is the ability for users to not only create posts, but whether they're businesses or consumers, to add experiences to the platform. So that little menu that you see coming up here does exactly that. So that's at least a flavor, for who we are, what we're working on with Dave and Lydia, and what the application looks like. At this point, I'm happy to take in whatever time is left, any questions that people may have.
All right. Thank you, Martin. Very nice presentation. I found it very interesting going through it. And the part I liked about it, it allows the visitor to sort of customize their experience and really sort of drill down into what they're interested in, which I think is really great technology. And then it also allows interaction with the individual operator, whether it be a restaurant or rail bikes. And then it also, if I understood right, it connects people to the CTA, to Visit Carson City, which again, that's what we want. It drives more visitors to our website, which I think this is technology of the future that we need to be looking at. I want to commend the team also for, we're in weird times, but to continue to look for ways to drive people to Carson City. With that, I'll open up any questions from the board of Martin and his team. Casey?
Martin, what is the plan to, when you launch, drive people to the app, and how will you reach across the various regions that you've got loaded in there in terms of the DMOs?
That's an excellent question. So we have a launch strategy for Q1 and Q2 next year. Let me answer it sort of at a high level, and I'll come into a detail here for a moment. So we've got a 3-phase overall launch plan. Phase number 1 is essentially all the regions and sort of drive markets that I mentioned earlier. Phase 2 essentially goes through California nationally, and phase 3 is to go global. We're looking at that over something like a 2-year period. So we have global ambitions with this platform. I think one of the sort of fundamental questions you're asking is how will we attract consumers to this platform? The fact that it is social is a really big part of this. So we're going to focus, we've got a sort of a plan here to incrementally launch. So the initial focus in Q1 will be launching essentially with families and moms, and what we're referring to as millennial moms. So it will be a sort of incremental launch through the first quarter and beyond that uses a lot of social platforms. So we will do some demand generation through social media marketing, but we're also going to go into different groups within Facebook, for example. So every region has, for example, Facebook groups that focus on moms who worry about, what can their kids and families do within the pandemic. And then there are a lot of partnerships that we're working on, not just with DMOs, but we'll be bringing publishers, for example, into this platform as well. And I'm happy to share. Dave and Lydia have some insight into this, but I'm happy to share and have done with one or two DMOs who've asked the same question. More details about what the launch strategy looks like. But consider it revolving a lot around the social network and the needs of consumers in these sort of COVID times to find things to do for their families.
Martin, maybe I can get you to stop sharing content and we can actually see you. And so I assume then that if we do a partnership, and I guess this question maybe is for Dave, then I mean, there'd be cross promotion and whatnot, right? If we did an agreement with them and is that what we're looking for at some point in the future, is some kind of an agreement?
Yes, for the record, Dave Peterson. Yeah, initially, what we've talked about is just a letter of intent initially to get us kind of in this launch stage. So that's kind of our phase one, and whether or not we need to do an agreement, like a $0 agreement down the road, to be determined, but we want to get a letter of intent at least in place between us to get started. But the cross promotion, yeah, I think this is a really cool opportunity not only between us and MoPo, but also with our fellow Reno Tahoe Territory partners, the other DMOs, and then businesses within as well. And I don't know how much I should say or shouldn't say, but I know they have talked with some other folks within the Reno Tahoe Territory area as well, and I'm working on connecting them with some of my colleagues too, because I think our success is in us working collaboratively, right, as the 6 DMOs that comprise the Reno Tahoe Territory. And I would love for all 6 of us, right, to be able to partner, get our information and our content out there, because it makes for a better visitor experience rather than just seeing Carson City in isolation. I think it'd be great to have Tahoe, Virginia City, Reno, right, in the Carson Valley area. So that's what we're trying to help right now as well with our partners.
I applaud that, because I think the value in anything is not showing that we're isolated, but the more you can show in a region, the more attractive it is to an individual, and is the basis really for, we know what our marketing strategy is in terms of having us be the hub. And so if you see what's available in the whole region, obviously it helps say, gosh, we could spend 3 or 4 days there. There's a lot to do.
Yes.
Martin, without getting deep into the details, just in terms of funding this and ongoing revenue, do you envision a future where the DMOs pay to join, or is the model sort of advertisers would be what would drive the revenue component?
Yeah, another good question. If you don't mind, I'll just say one more thing about launch. That I would anticipate Visit Carson City being part of the initial set of launch partners with us as we start to go out more publicly in sort of the second phase of our launch. But in terms of the business model that you were asking about, here's our business model to just sort of address that directly. First of all, we don't ever anticipate charging consumers. We do not ever anticipate charging DMOs. What we are looking to do from a business point of view is to take probably a small fraction of any transactions that flow through the platform. So for those operators, and we're not even going to require this, for those operators who want to take advantage of booking and payments within the mobile platform as a sort of top to bottom, full service environment, we will take a percentage of those transactions. But what we're looking to do, so you all know, is make sure that's more cost effective than anything that's on the marketplace today. Not least because businesses are suffering, right? And we need to make sure that we are not cost prohibitive in terms of what we take from that. Because we have a social platform, our business model, and you mentioned it, allows us, for example, to generate revenue from advertising streams. So that fact allows us to create more value for the operators in terms of keeping any fraction that we take of transactions from them low and never charge DMOs.
All right, well, I appreciate your time, and your answers to the questions were spot on. I'm excited, and I think this is a great opportunity for us and for our region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board, from Martin and his team?
This is Bobby Rader. I just have a question for Dave. Are you looking for approval of a letter of intent right now?
For the record, Dave Peterson, no.
Okay.
Any other?
I meant that in a nice way, Bobby. Sorry.
No, that was clear and succinct. Any other questions for Martin? Well, Martin, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Great presentation. I think it's a great product, and hopefully Dave and we'll be able to work together and get this off the ground.
Once again, let me just say a big thank you to all of you. We appreciate the opportunity, and we'll continue to move forward. Dave and Lydia, thank you.
Thanks once again.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, team.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
With that, we'll move on to item 10, discussion and possible action to approve the fiscal year 2020 annual audit report and financial statement. David, you want to a little lead into this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Jones. So I'm going to take credit for all of Chris's wonderful work over, I think, September and October on our fiscal 20 audit with the Casey Nealon team. I know it was a bit challenging with the changeover to the new accounting system, but Chris did an amazing job. I want to say, pulling all this material together and providing everything on time to the Casey Nealon staff. So with that, Nikki Nealon is on the WebEx right now to hit the highlights on the fiscal 20 audit for Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. So I'll turn it over to you, Nikki.
Thank you, David. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. For the record, my name is Nikki Nealon, and I'm a CPA and principal with Casey Nealon. And unfortunately, you know, I've got to follow MOPO and their exciting discussion on opportunities for you with a fairly boring audit report. But I will say that a boring audit report normally means there's no problems. So that's actually a good thing. So I too would like to thank Chris and thank David. It has been challenging this year with COVID and having to do audits remotely, but I will say they were amazing. They rose to the challenge. They provided us everything that we needed, and you know, we had a really good audit experience with them. So I would like to thank them very much, and they did a fabulous job. We typically, you know, we had actually had an earlier due date on being able to present this to you. Unfortunately, our office, like many others, was struck with COVID, and so we did have some staff out, including myself, right around the time when we were originally going to be presenting this to you. So I appreciate your patience in allowing us to present this a little later. So the first thing I would draw your attention to are pages 1 through 3 of the audit. Those are the auditor's report. And this is, you know, the primary importance for you. This is our opinion on the financial statements. And you have received an unmodified opinion. This is commonly known as a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give on a set of financial statements. Page 7 is the statement of net position, and this is essentially your equity on a full accrual basis. So that's your assets and deferred outflows less your liabilities and deferred inflows. It's different than what you would be seeing on your monthly meetings, and actually different when I look at your agenda and the presentation of the fund balances, very different to the fund balances. And I'll walk through why that is. And primarily that's because every month the financial statements that you get are on a modified accrual basis. The financials that we present to you at the end of the year have a government-wide financial statement that's on full accrual, and also your fund financial statements that are on modified accrual. So the net position for the authority was $219,000 at June 30, 2020. That is about $177,000 less than in the prior year. And I'll walk through some of those changes a little later. Your net position is broken down into 4 components. The first is the amount of your net position that is invested in capital assets. That is reduced slightly from the prior year, and that's primarily due to depreciation on those assets and some disposals. You have 2 restricted line items, and those are the amounts that are restricted for bond payments and the amount that are restricted for B&T, and that is the fund balance of those funds. The amount that was restricted for bond payments is reduced by about $11,000, and the amount that's restricted for B&T is reduced from the prior year by about $95,000. The unrestricted net position is the amount of your equity that has no restrictions on it or no limitations, and that is a negative amount of $365,000, and it is reduced from the prior year by about $98,000. The next page is your statement of activities, and this shows the changes in the activity for the year, and it explains this $177,000 reduction in net position. And so your total expenses were just over $2.1 million, and that actually represents a decrease of $129,000 over the prior year. I know there were some cost-cutting measures that came in earlier this year. And while your grants and interest income were up, given the travel restrictions that were in place earlier this year, it's no surprise that the transient lodging taxes suffered a decrease of 16.15% or $345,000. So those components are what make up the decrease in your statement of activities and the decrease in your net position. Page 9 shows the assets, liabilities, and fund balances of each of the funds. And that number is just over 1.6 million. And the question is, why is that so much higher than your net position of 219,000? And we walk through those changes on page 10. On this page, you can see that most of the difference is attributable to the net pension obligation for PERS and the other post-employment benefit obligations for PEP. And you are essentially on a pay-as-you-go basis. So PERS and PEP set contribution rates each year, and that's your cash obligation for these liabilities. Page 11 shows the revenues and expenses that contribute to the changes in your fund balances. And essentially the revenues are the same as you see on your government-wide financial statement, but your expenses are less. And these differences are explained on the next page, page 12. And these are primarily comprised of the additional expenses for the pension liability and the OPEB liability. Other matters, in note 2 to the financial statements, we did note a potential budget violation in the V&T Capital Projects Fund. This was because the expenditures in the intergovernmental function were higher than the authorized budget. Page 36 is our report on internal control and financial reporting and compliance, and we had no matters to disclose to you there. And page 38 are our auditor comments. As noted earlier, we did identify a budget violation in 2020, and the predecessor auditor had noted a budget violation in the general fund in the prior year. And the prior year significant deficiency, this was attributable to a prior period adjustment, so the auditor went back and corrected financial statements, did not recur in the current year. So on the whole, a good financial audit opinion. Definitely a challenging year for the authority because of the reduction in the transient occupancy tax, but your staff did a great job, and the significant deficiency from the prior year was not repeated in the current year. And with that, I'll ask if anybody has any questions.
Questions from the board? No, you're right, Casey. It has been a challenging year. I always say when you start that it's a pretty boring report, That's good news usually for an audit report, as you mentioned. And I would like to thank Chris for all her hard work. Dave talked briefly about it, but changing out audit accounting systems in the middle of it is no easy task, and getting all the information correct and in the right format and in the right line is no easy feat. So thanks everyone that was involved. With that, I'll ask if there's any specific questions. It was a nice high-level view. I think you covered all the high points, but certainly open to any questions from the board. With that, thank you, Casey. We appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Thank you, and I appreciate having the opportunity to present this to you, and I wish you all a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a very safe New Year.
Thank you.
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority's audit report and financial statements for FY20.
Can I get a second?
A second. This is Bobby.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. On to item 11, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed amendment to the interlocal agreement for administrative services and facility use and management between Carson City, the city, and the Carson City District Attorney's Office and the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority, CTA, to amend and delete provisions related to the administration of the 1% transient lodging tax dedicated to the implementation of the city's arts and culture master plan and the development of a cultural tourism campaign, the 1% tax, and authorization for the CTA Executive Director to take any action necessary to implement the amended agreement. David, if you want to boil that down, that was a mouthful, but I think we can.
Sure. I like to get right to the point, as Stacy knows. Succinct, Kurt. So in your packet, you actually have the amendment form that Todd has put together. So at the Cultural Commission joint CTA meeting in November, you all agreed to move the administration of the tax through May 31st back underneath the CTA. This is the actual document that allows us to do that. So if you all agree with the decision you made back in November, which I hope you do, this is step one, and then it will move forward to the Thursday Board of Supervisors meeting for the Board of Supervisors to agree to the same change, the amendment that you see here, which cut and dried is just removing the 1% for arts and culture, and then removing on page 3, section C of the original interlocal agreement. So that's all I have to add, just the mechanical part of making this come to fruition.
Questions, concerns from the board? With hearing none, if we could get a motion to approve?
This is Bobby. I'll make the motion to approve the amendment and authorize the CTA Executive Director to take any action necessary to implement the amended agreement.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. With that, we'll move on to item 12, monthly non-action items for presentation and discussion only. Executive Director update, David?
Thank you, Chair Jones. So I've got 4 things I'd like to run through quickly with the board, just provide some updates on. So we were fortunate enough to receive funding from the Nevada Commission on Tourism related to an allocation of CARES relief funds that the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs provided us for 3 grants, including $20,500 to do a multi-day photo video drone shoot focusing on outdoor winter recreation. We received another $22,215 to replace the different light pole banners on Carson and Curry Streets, as well as replacement light pole brackets and dowel sets. And finally, we received $6,000 to bring in 2 different influencers And I just want to remind the board that there was no match required since these were CARES relief funds. So all the projects will be completed by 12:30 as per the guidelines with the CRF funds. And Lydia is actually going to provide a little more detail under the marketing report on the individual grants. So I'll let her cover that because it's her hard work on that front. So I wanted to give a quick update on the other commercial interest vacancy and the application. So with thanks to Todd and Nancy, Stephanie, and Rachel, we now do have the updated application on the carson.org website that addresses kind of as best we can per the NRS, the owning, operating versus the managing and representing a commercial business here in Carson City. So it will allow for, for instance, I'll just use this as a quick example, maybe let's say the marketing director of a particular business to apply now to be in that other commercial interest spot, as long as they have, the owner's permission that, yes, they can represent my business. So many thanks on that front, and I will be working to hopefully drum up some interest in this particular spot on the board moving forward. So Kit Carson Trail marker installation update. So I really want to thank Rick Cooley here, Terry, Teddy, Josh, and I know I'm probably forgetting some of the guys that have been working on the installation of the markers, but they have done an amazing job. They let Zach go around and shoot some video of them, and which was challenging because boy, these guys move really fast. I was very impressed, right, with the speed at which they were pouring concrete. It was great. So we do have 41 of the 48 markers in. Those were in before the Thanksgiving holiday. The remaining 7 markers are on state lands, and I didn't know about this, but I obviously have come to know this in the last month or so, but I did have to submit a right-of-way authorization application through state lands, and that has gone through the public comment period, and it is awaiting the Deputy Director of State Lands approval for that part of this process for the state lands markers. And then I'm also working now with State Public Works, and Buildings and Grounds to deal with any other permitting that may or may not be necessary through that particular group. So hopefully, by the time we see you all in January, we'll have been through this process and those remaining 7 markers will be in place. So I would like to also, if I may, give a quick update from the V&T sitting on the commission. So rail bikes, I very, very pleased with the numbers. So if you recall, we launched the rail bikes at the beginning of August, and we ran them to the end of the Nevada Day weekend, and then we had some rail bike and hike activity going on in November. But I'm happy to say total passenger count, 4,597 people. Again, that included the regular rail bike tours, the fall rail bike and hike, the short bridge rides where we just took people up to the station and back, as well as the spooky rail bike rides. And the resulting ticket revenue after the processing fees was just over $190,000. So very successful, to say the least. And I'm really looking forward to next spring and creating the different kind of experiences beyond just riding the rail bike down and getting out, taking a picture, but coming up with some themed events and some other opportunities. So the other thing we have going on, which I think you all may be aware of at the V&T, is the Santa's Drive-Through Village event. So this is a response to canceling the Polar Express train experience due to COVID and the occupancy restrictions. But we've moved forward with another opportunity, a revenue opportunity, which ran this past weekend. As many of you heard, I think the traffic was backed up all the way down 50, trying to turn off into the V&T. It will resume this Friday and then run through December 24th. That event takes place from 6 to 9 p.m. each night at the Eastgate Depot, and it's $20 per car. You don't even need to leave your vehicle. You can wear your PJs, whatever kind you want. Nobody will see you in your car, and keep your hot chocolate at the ready. So with that, Mr. Chair, that is my update for this month. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions for David? Good. Let's move on to the transient occupancy tax.
Sure, thank you, Chair. So in your packets, you have the big 11 by 18 sheet or 11 by 17 sheet. We are still awaiting a couple in terms of when we put this out on the 8th. There were a couple of hangups with a couple of checks that we had not received. So October is still in blue, just due to a couple of properties. But a very interesting number, to say the least, because we're showing being up almost 3.7% October 2020 as compared to October 2019. So I think we take the victory where we can. As you look at November and December, I did revise those downward to a negative 30% as compared to November and December. That's based on my conversations with several properties. And I know with all the changing of the directives and capacities and then everything that's happening, to our west, it's definitely having an impact on our overall occupancy and our projections. So as you all know, Chris and I are working on this every week, and as I'm having conversations with properties, trying to take that into consideration as we're making the updates. But for this report, I just wanted you to see October and then mention the revisions that I made for November and December. And I really haven't touched anything from January forward because I do want to see what happens as the returns come in later on this month for November. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have on the.
Board Member Stacy?
Dave, if, I know you haven't touched January, February, and we saw some increases in months that we didn't expect to see increases in. But if the trend continues, say the December trend continues or into, say through the remaining of the fiscal year, because you're showing in March with figures actually increasing, or hitting basically FY19 actuals. Are we still okay if those numbers end up going negative?
To a
So-
certain degree, yes. So yes, let me address, Stacy. Good, that's an excellent question. So if you go all the way over to the far right column where you see us, it shows 2.351 million. Right now, that's the projected.
Wait a sec,
2.351 million.
in the total?
Yeah, in the total. If
Oh,
you
I see
scroll
it.
down
Yes.
to the bottom.
Okay, go ahead, yes.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
from a pacing perspective, that's actually what we're projecting to come in over the original budget from May 11th that we submitted to the Department of Taxation. So hypothetically, and Chris, jump in if I say this incorrectly, but hypothetically, if we gave back that 2.351 million in revenue, so say we come in low January through June, that's kind of like our break even, I guess, if I'm saying that correctly, because we built our budget off of a projected revenue of the 16.176 million. Right now, we're projecting 18.527 million. So hypothetically, if we could come in below January through June by that amount, and we would basically be back at what we originally projected our fiscal 21 lodging tax revenue to be. Does that make sense?
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
If I'm reading this correctly, the 16,176 is built off of what we did in FY19. Is that an accurate statement?
It's based on the actual revenue that we had at the time for fiscal 20 plus 19's actual. So it's kind of a hybrid. We worked with what we did have for fiscal 20 at the time, and then where we didn't have, obviously we laddered back to what the FY19 numbers were.
Okay, well, so I'm looking from March to June, and the numbers in the FY21 forecast as a 5/11/20 exactly match FY19 for March, April, May, and June.
Yep.
And I guess what I'm saying is, understanding what you're talking about, it's still showing that for us to hit that 16,176 from March, April, May, and June, we have to hit those FY19 numbers. And I guess my concern is that I don't know that we're going to hit those numbers.
Yes, but Stacy, if you look at where we're at actual July, even including our projections through December, we're actually ahead 2.3 million hypothetically.
I see that.
Yeah.
We're
so
ahead
that-
2.351,
Yep.
179.49.
Yeah, yep. Including our projections for November and December. If we do better than projected for November and December, that 2.351 will go up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. But you are right, and Mike and I have obviously been talking about taking a look at January through June, but we wanted to get a read on what November looks like, because I do agree with you. I think we're going to come in softer than what we originally thought back in May, and I know a lot of this also is going to have to do with the vaccine and the, tiering 1, 2, 3, 4, and when people are able to get the vaccines, they feel better about coming back and traveling. So I can say with pretty good, feeling that we're going to have to take a look and revise these numbers. And maybe we can look at this for the January meeting, for sure for February.
Yeah, I think I would just, I mean, my comfort level would be that we take a realistic look at estimating those months and not just duplicating FY19 going forward, so that we have a month or two in there to react to that and do whatever we might need to do. So we're not doing
Yeah.
something drastic like laying people off because I don't think any of us want to do that.
Agreed.
But we don't have an option but to have a balanced budget. So I just would like to see us be a little, I think, more realistic about that, because the governor on Sunday announced that the pause is continuing. I don't know that travel is going to come back. Nevada is only getting between the first two companies of vaccine, Pfizer and Moderna, around 170,000 doses is all. So that is, that is the number of people that can actually get fully vaccinated. 85,000 people roughly in the entire state in that first round of vaccine. And that probably is going to be taken up by healthcare workers and people in nursing homes, not high travel groups. So, it's going to be March, April, I think, before realistic doses of vaccine are out for the general public. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on that number.
No, that's a great suggestion. So for the January meeting, I'll come back with some revised numbers, just a little bit of a more realistic look at where we think January through June will land. I did start some conversations at the end of last week, which was after, obviously, we put this together with the economist for Travel Nevada as well, because he's collecting data, of course, for all the rural counties. So we just kind of started some conversation at the end of last week, because I'm interested to see what the other 14 rural counties are projecting as well, and what he's looking at for those counties too, just to kind of see where we fall, not only for the fiscal year, but like you said, either by quarter or by month, if I can get that data out of them. So I think that'll be helpful too. And I'll keep talking with the properties as well to kind of see what their pacing looks like for the first quarter of next calendar year, and see if I can get some information from the properties, and then just kind of aggregate everything together.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on whether another stimulus bill comes through or a couple of stimulus bills come through. I think a lot of it depends on that. So thank you.
Agreed. Yeah, no, thank you, Stacy, thank you.
No, I think, David, November and December will give us some insight, because I think they're going to be fairly bleak numbers. October, I don't know what happened in October, but I think Stacy's right about, trying to come up with a more realistic number and not using 19 as a roadmap.
Yeah, and Chair,
Anything
if I may, could I just add one thing
David.
too? Stacy, just anticipating, potentially not hitting those projections, any savings that we have on the expenditure side right now, we're leaving. So we're not spending, so as we're going with this anticipation, right, on the expenditure side of things, and Chris is great at this, reminding me, we're making sure that those expenditure savings are sitting there, right? Just to help on the off chance that, things take a turn for the worse in the first half of next year, our second half fiscal year, but first half calendar year. So we're also on the expenditure side, making sure we've got this in the back of our mind from a revenue perspective. So just for Stacy, but for the whole board to know that.
Any other questions from the board? Events and sales update, James?
Thank you. On your screens, do you see my presentation on there? On these?
No, but I think Desi can move his magic fingers and make that happen. Just like that.
Considering back in October, we were planning for the Nevada Day weekend and all of the activities, but we didn't actually have anything ready and prepared, as we were trying to compile as much information as to what's actually going to take place and what wasn't going to take place. So we're just going to do a quick recap of that. This was the official poster and brochure that we put together. The things that are on there deal with the balloon launch, the rock drilling, the Stewart Indian School, the beard contest, the prison tours, the rail bikes, the reverse parade, and the Made in Nevada drive-in movie theaters that we did. And we actually did a lot more, as we found that there was definitely a lot more events that other people were putting together away from downtown. And so we ended up putting that onto a page on our website, and Lydia was able to use that for some social posts to kind of gain some awareness for all of these activities. At the time in our last board meeting, we were still talking about the reverse parade and the location as where that was going to take place, whether that would be at WNC, at the Go Dust West, or at the DMV. We ended up confirming with WNC that it would take place over there, and we ended up stopped counting after 150 cars came through. So we're really happy with the amount of people that came out to participate and also enjoy the reverse parade. In November, we had a big conference. This is our second go-around, going to NTA. We went in 2019. This time, it was virtually. And for some of the newer board members, this is our conference where we meet with motor coach operators, tour operators, and we pitch Carson City as a destination that they can either do an overnight or visit some of our assets. And on the very first day, we participated with some of our regional partners, the RTT, RCVA, and Visit Elko, for the Nevada Sales Missions, which is roughly 5 minutes quick overview of our territory, the things that we have to offer. And our focus, my focus, was to introduce some of the newer products that we had. So we highlighted the rail bikes, the Stewart Indian School, and the Kit Carson Trail with the new signage and also maps that we have created. In addition to talking about our museums, our events, and meeting spaces. We even included opportunities for developing products, which is our state prison tours. It's not listed on here, but I did also talk about the new hotel opening up, the State Bridge. So we received positive feedback from a lot of people, very excited to see some of the new things that are happening. The rail bikes was really a hit for some of our FIT markets, specifically when most of these motor coach operators, they have a older, mature people and so when they heard that the rail bikes, it was fully powered, that they didn't have to, that it was fully assisted if they wanted it to be fully powered. It included them into the potential package for rail bikes in their itineraries in the future. So we're hoping to get some play from that in the near future. The next day, we had the official appointments with our tour operators and motor coach operators. The one sheet is the only thing that we could present to them at this particular meeting. 6 minutes, and we highlight, the entertainment things that we have, our regional proximity. We show them a map to kind of give them an overall view if they're not familiar with the region, so that they can see if it can be included into an existing package that they offer, or for them to put together an entirely new package. In a lot of cases, we tend to promote the entire region when it comes to some of these tour operators, simply because the opportunity for them to schedule a tour is much more favorable when they know that there's a lot of things to do within the region and not just Carson City. So many times, and when we speak with RTT and some of our partners at Virginia City, they do the same thing. So we're all on the same board when it comes to promoting the region, in addition to promoting our actual DMOs that we represent. So total team effort for that. This highlights the list of some of the operators that we met with. Some of the big players in this is the Mayflower Cruise and Tours. They're one of the bigger tour operators that we are trying to bring here to Carson City. Some of these tour operators are already doing activities in Carson City, but maybe not necessarily staying a night. And we're continuing to have conversations with them to see what we can do to maybe transition from a drive-through and have them stay. After we had our chances to meet with some of these tour operators and motor coach operators, we attended the rest of the conference and listened to some feedback on some trends. And one of the things that came up in our conference, in our meetings, was actually a live virtual tour, which is where we could take tour operators and motor coach, almost like a fam tour when they come through, and we take them to each of these destinations or locations in town, is to have a live virtual tour where we can take them to, for example, the Nevada State Museum. They can go on the tour on there and ask, and while the spokesperson is talking, the people that are participating in this tour can ask questions and get feedback from them. The way that it worked from some of the videos that I saw online is one particular individual would facilitate, and then, like a Zoom meeting, they had someone who was at a different location. For example, they would be at the VNT or at Stewart, with a camera, with their phones, and the live meeting would transition from the office directly to them, and they would do a tour of the facility there, kind of bringing in the perspective of not just a typical tour, but some of the things that would be available for a tour operator that would be unique. The big takeaway was the exchanges between the tour operator and the participants, in terms of they can ask those direct questions and get immediate answers. That's something that's different than just watching a YouTube video of someone doing a tour, is that engagement, which is a big part of that. And so there's a lot that's going to have to take place in order for us to pull this off, and it all is dependent on the availability. Scheduling the times and dates of what tour operators can participate, when they would be able to do that. The time zones is something that we have to work out depending on where these tour operators live. The networks, we need to run some tests at different facilities to see what our Wi-Fi capabilities will work and function, and the peak times of when we should try to operate that is something that we have to navigate. And then our assets. For example, the VNT, I'll bring it back up again, they don't come back live again until May. And so a lot of our museums are closed right now because of the pandemic. And so It's trying to assess when they can open again and when we can try to put this whole package together and offer this, I think, a really great experience and unique opportunity for some of these tour operators to truly see what the assets that we have in Carson City. And I think it's going to take some prep time, but it's definitely worth it for us to pursue. In addition to that, David and I, we've been working on the MICE travel page on our website, which is our meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. We've been trying to put together a comprehensive list of all the meeting spaces that we have in Carson City, square footage, if they offer different kinds of tables, round tables, rectangle tables, seating arrangements, in addition to audio visual, if those things are provided or not. And then we filtered through the comprehensive list and navigated to what we can actually market and promote. And we're hopeful to have something to present to you at our January board meeting, but that is something that we have been working on for a couple months now.
Are you getting a good response?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we pretty much have the list of everyone's names, contacts, phone numbers, and emails. Some people, when I ask for square footage, they come back with, well, I'll have to pull out the measuring tape, and I just respond, if you just know the max occupancy, I'll take that instead. You don't have to pull out a tape just for me. But it's, people I think are very willing to provide information at this time, so it wasn't very difficult to track people down.
James, is there similar group for like the meeting world as there is for the bus tour world? Does that make sense? I mean, is there sort of a group of people that you can then market that to, that is sort of similar in nature to the group that you're marketing on the travel tours to?
Yes, there is, and that's the MICE group themselves. And they, from my experience, from what we've noticed, they don't really overlap. If you're the motor coach, that's your world. And so we're trying to open up Carson City to the MICE groups that are out there, because it's difficult to try to make a pitch if you don't really know what you have. And so that was like the foundation. This is the foundation work to try and make sure that if we can pitch it to a group under 15 people, what are the things that they look for?
Yeah.
What do they want?
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because
Yeah.
So there's a reason to do the work and a place to take the work once you've done all that
Correct.
background. Yeah, good.
Correct.
I think
And then
it
this-
allows you to target then the group size and with our amenities.
Right. Right. And there's some areas that maybe we identify where we need to work on, and then we work with some of our product developments around town to see what they can do to improve on those things. We've received pitches before for RFQs or RFPs for a particular event, and we either don't have the capacity to do it or the resources to make it happen. But these are typically the big players that we find things on. We're trying to find the smaller scale meetings and people or small businesses that are trying to do an escape at the same time, host, them while they're here. So
Once you get out there in that world, hopefully you will get feedback on what we're lacking.
Correct.
So that it's very similar to what the experience you've had on the bus tour group, where they say, hey, we want X, Y, and Z. And then you can go out to the community and speak to the businesses and say, if you had these 2 or 3 things, we could attract some mid-size conferences.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what is really needed until you get
Very
into
true.
that world, right?
very true, very true. And, it's an education for all of us to figure out what their needs are and how we can match that.
But that's the cycle. So maybe a year from now, we're sitting here talking about Gold Dust West adding, a widget that allows them to, get some more people in. So that's great. Thank you.
And then just the last slide here is just a reminder that, another motor coach conference that was supposed to take place in January has been moved and postponed to June 18th through 22nd of 2021. This one, by all accounts, from everyone I've spoken to, is a much larger size than the NTA, which also comes with a larger price tag. But in order for us to play in this world, we had to pay. So that's it for all the slides. Any questions?
Thanks, James. Any other questions? Thank you.
This is
Lydia.
Bobby Rader. I had just a comment. I wanted to just commend the staff on the creative way that you chose to deal with Nevada Day, the parade being canceled. Like, I could tell it was, you had to think on your feet and be flexible and find creative ways to share different events. And as far as the Stewart Indian School Cultural Center and Museum, we had a great event. We had 199 people come through. So it was, it was really a great event. And many of them were Carson City residents who had never been to Stewart, didn't even know Stewart existed. And I think it, gave people an opportunity to get out of downtown and see something else. So I think you guys did a great job.
Yeah, when I talk to people about the Stewart Indian School and the possibilities that are there for not just a great experience, but an educational experience, I get very, very good feedback. People want to know more and ask specifically for that. So thank you guys for always being available when we need something from you guys, because I know lately we've been asking a lot. So
No, thank you for promoting us. We appreciate it. And I love the live streaming idea. We're still there working every day, so even though our museum is technically closed, we could do some kind of a virtual tour. We would maybe have an issue with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're aware of that.
We have to test out all those things, but we will be contacting you about that, Bobby.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Lydia, marketing update?
All right. Let's jump into what we're going to cover. We'll go through the PR report quickly for October and November. We'll hit on the digital front and everything that we've been doing for the past couple of months. I'll dive deeper into the CRF grant update and what we're actually doing and have done with the grant funding that we've received. And then also, Zach's been hard at work and putting together some pretty awesome videos that we've been using and will be launching. So I'll play a few of those for you. I'm going to go pretty quickly through the PR report. As you can imagine, October was really all about Nevada Day. Also hitting some of Stewart as well as part of the Nevada Day celebration. And then we had quite a bit of PR value in October because we were picked up by USA Today for something that I wish was a little bit more positive. It was COVID-19 Halloween events that were canceled. But they also offered optional events that you could attend instead of some of our larger events. But it did bring great exposure and a big outlet. So I'm going to hop into November. That was a pretty small as far as PR goes, but a lot of this, the bulk of this is from our influencers that we brought in. So I'll dive into more about what they spoke about. But up until this fiscal year, we've reached 82,900 people. We've had a unique visitors per month of 147.7 million. And we've had a publicity value of $73,900 so far. So moving into the digital front, we'll start on the Google search and their Google ads. So the Google search ads are now running with retargeting campaigns as well. So we're following people around the internet that are interested in Carson City. These are some of the display ads that are following them. We have the Discover Your Capital campaign, and we've switched back and forth between that campaign just due to the changing climate and not wanting to push travel at inappropriate times just for safety precautions. So we've switched over to the We're Here For You campaign while we're in this pause to align with the governor's request. So it just says, we're here for you when you're ready to travel again, discover your capital city, and then that takes them to our Visit Carson City Safely landing page. We also have TrueView video advertising with the winter theme. So that's all the YouTube advertising that's doing really well, put together with some of the videos that Zach has done. And so that highlights all the things that you can do in Carson City, mostly outdoors. and promotes, when you're ready to travel, this is what you can do. As far as our paid social media, our ads are performing really well. We had a fall in love, quote unquote, with Carson City campaign running for a lot of October. It says, when you're ready to travel again, we're here for you. In the meantime, click to discover your capital. And that was a beautiful fall video that Zach had put together. Our total click-through rate is 4.46%. That's well above the Facebook average, around 1%. And our total cost per click is only 15 cents, where the normal average is $1.70. So throughout the last 2 months, these are the numbers combined. We've reached almost 136,000 people. We've delivered over 150,000 impressions, and we've had about 5,100 people actually click to go to our website from our paid ads. As far as our website traffic, that's not something I touch on a lot in our presentation, so I wanted to give you a taste of what a 2-month summary looks like now that we've been able to actually get some paid dollars behind it, because until July, we were really kind of testing the paid market just due to the climate, and people weren't really traveling yet. So now I feel like we've had some momentum going with this. So over the last 2 months, we've had 78,716 people visit our website. Their average time on page is about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Our bounce rate is about 67%, which I'd like to see a little bit lower. But overall, really pleased with the amount of people that are hitting the site. And over here, you'll be able to see on the bottom right our top 10 landing pages that people are viewing. And so I know that's really small and kind of difficult to see. So of course, our homepage is our most visited page, because that's where a lot of our ads are directing. But our second, of course, was Nevada Day. And then we also had a guest blogger write a blog for the site that was 5 things I wish I knew before visiting Carson City. And I don't know if the SEO keywords are just aligning so people are finding it, but that's our 3rd most visited page and continues to be a very top performer for us. And that didn't cost us a single dime. So I'm very happy about that. Then our things to do page, the events page, our hotels page, and then we also did a blog for the perfect 2020 trip to Carson City that we promoted through Pinterest. And we have our rail bikes as number 8. Then we have the Kit Carson Trail as number 9, and then the Kings Canyon Waterfall at number 10. And moving on to the CRF grant update. So the downtown banners, as Dave had mentioned, are coming soon, and hopefully will be hung by the end of the month. So we'll have pictures to come, and you'll be able to see that downtown soon. And we're really happy and pleased with the design of that, which KPS3 had helped with. And I think hopefully a lot of people will be pleased to see that update. That really highlights areas that you can go visit and attractions throughout Carson City. So not only they're just pictures, it says visit Carson City, and we'll have a removable safely from our logo. We'll be able to take that off so that they'll be reusable in the future when all of this dies down. And then on the back side, it will have, each banner has the same location. So it'll have one for Stewart Indian School, and then on the bottom, it has a location and it describes what that is. So people walking and visitors walking around town will actually be able to know where that is. The winter photo shoot we're really excited about. It's actually going to start tomorrow and will happen tomorrow and on Thursday. So our shoot locations are no longer potential, but tomorrow we'll be hitting the Silver Saddle Ranch area to do some biking. And then we're also going to go over to Prison Hill, and we'll hit the new Carson River Trail system and highlight those beautiful trails that they just built and opened. We're also going to go to McFadden Plaza. We're going to go to the Kings Canyon Waterfall, and we'll be going up to Hobart as well. Not all the way to the reservoir, but to an overlook that really looks over Carson City and is really going to be beautiful. And on Thursday, we're supposed to get some snow, so we're really excited to have some winter assets that we don't really have a ton of. We have a lot of fall and a lot of summer, and we do have some beautiful dome and snowy scenic shots, but not a lot with people. And so we're really making this focused on photo, video, and drone footage. So we're really excited that we got this grant. And Brian Walker has done work for us before. He actually came in as an influencer last Nevada Day, and all of his photos are what we've used on the cover of the visitor guide and all throughout the visitor guide too. So he's really focusing more on that landscape kind of wanderlust photos. So we're excited for that. And the influencer grant was all focused on an open, safe campaign. And that was a stipulation of the grant. And so we brought in two influencers that normally I feel like would be probably a little bit out of our budget. So we're excited to really have the quality that they brought and the messaging that they brought that really made Carson City look and feel like it's a safe destination to visit. So I'm going to jump into that. The first one actually was not through the grant, but someone that we brought in on our own with our budgeted funds in our personal budget. And so that was with Gabriella Viola. She came in late October, right before Nevada Day. She's from Lake Tahoe, and she's a wonderful photographer and had a great time in Carson City. So we normally just asked for photo assets that we could use. She did a social post for us and stories throughout her visit, but she actually had such a great time. She wrote a blog post about it that she featured that was not negotiated. So you can see this is what she had on Pinterest, which garnered a lot of traffic, and then her photo assets were beautiful that we'll be able to use, that we have free reign to use with credit. And anyone that we really have been bringing in personally, we are focusing on more of a local campaign, just bringing more awareness to Reno and the Tahoe area to come visit and discover your capital. So moving into what was used through the CRF grants. So the first one was 2 travel dads. He was incredibly professional and normally travels with his husband, but did a solo trip and met up with the other influencer, No Back Home. So this is Rob. Carolyn is with No Back Home, the other influencer that we brought in. And so they actually know each other, and they met up in Carson City for a friend's trip to really kind of showcase, what you can do and how to travel safely with people that you know. So for him, we gathered photo assets, social posts, and stories. He actually did a bonus podcast with us, and he did 2 bonus blog posts that are performing really well. And he's also sending over his photo assets. So some of the posts that he did, I think, really highlighted a tactful way to approach traveling at a time like this. And so I'll read these to you. So he said, "So I learned today that I miss autumn." He's from Florida, by the way. "I'm here in Carson City exploring the outdoors and finding all the good food. This city is really beautiful, and there are a lot of gorgeous sidewalks and walking paths to enjoy. We're staying socially distant, focus on incredible environment and history. Mask are on, except for when I have to hug trees, and the sky is blue." And the other one, where he's at the hot springs, says, "Hot springs are my jam." Yet another great way to enjoy Carson City while staying socially distant, getting the health benefits of sunlight, minerals, and fresh air, and getting to relax. What we've seen here in Nevada so far is strong mask rules, endless outdoor space, and people that are happy to talk to you from far away. So Carolyn is with No Back Home. That's her handle on Instagram. Has quite a strong following. I think well over 30 or 40,000 people, and Rob is the same. So she says the light, the colors, the views. She travels with her son Kian. They've been all over the world. She says it feels like every backdrop in Carson City is a green screen photo. The reflections in the river on our late afternoon stroll was just magical. Not to encourage you to travel at the moment, but you must put Carson City on your wish list. This little town, big on outdoor adventure, has woven its way into our hearts. Save this post for when you make it out. Below, I share our top 3 favorite hikes that are great for everyone to enjoy. And then they visited the waterfall, and her son had never seen anything like that as far as icicles or snow, or they live in LA. And so this was pretty magical for them. So no matter how worldly or well-traveled you are, there's always more to discover and experience. Today we hiked to a waterfall along a snowy path, and as we rounded the bend, it was all oohs and ahs as we saw the waterfall streaming down through the middle of the tree limbs, draped in icicles. This was our first time seeing something so magical and wintry. It was mesmerizing. I couldn't stop playing with the bits of snow along the trail, so our Kian couldn't stop playing with the bits of snow along the trail. So you can imagine his delight upon seeing the icicles in real life. And then it goes on to promote more about our trails. So from her, we got a blog post as well, social posts and stories and content that we'll be able to share well into the next year. And then we'll move into the content update. So one thing that Zach has really been focusing on is promoting our safety in our hotels, in our restaurants, and in our museums and galleries. And we hope to continue this video series so we can highlight not only to the city or the governor to how safe we're being in Carson City, because I really believe that we've gone above and beyond, but also to make guests and visitors feel a little bit more safe when they're here. So Desi, I'm going to play this video and hopefully I have video, sound. Nope.
Safety is important to us.
Oh, there we go.
That's why we are taking the necessary precautions to keep our employees and guests safe by implementing social distancing
Desi, we're
guidelines.
not getting any sound.
Each lodging property has implemented signage and social distancing markers. And all pens, credit card machines, and surfaces are sanitized after each use. Elevators are for one person or one party only. Gym equipment is wiped down after each use. All rooms will be thoroughly cleaned and sanitized prior to your arrival. Employees are required to wear the proper personal protective equipment. Our goal is to ensure all safety precautions are met and our guests feel safe and comfortable while enjoying their stay here in Carson City, Nevada. Travel safely, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
So that was our hotel safety, which was our first one that we made a while back. And then the restaurant was actually done.
Did you do that at the beginning? I think we missed the beginning of that.
Yes, I'm hoping. Okay. Bear with me because what I'm seeing on the screen is not what I'm seeing on my computer. So 1 second. I am trying. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to play the slideshow again and it is
Here in Carson
There
City,
we go.
Nevada, your safety is important to us. That's why we are taking the necessary precautions to keep our employees and guests safe by implementing social distancing guidelines. Each lodging property has implemented signage and social distancing markers. And all pens, credit card machines, and surfaces are sanitized after each use. Elevators are for one person or one party only. Gym equipment is wiped down after each use. All rooms will be thoroughly cleaned and sanitized prior to your arrival. Employees are required to wear the proper personal protective equipment. Our goal is to ensure all safety precautions are met and our guests feel safe and comfortable while enjoying their stay here in Carson City, Nevada. Travel safely, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
all right. Let's see. There we go. So James's family was kind enough to be our models for the restaurant safety video.
Carson City welcomes you to dine with us. That's right, we're still open and ready to serve you. Safely, of course. With social distancing guidelines still in place, masks are required upon entry, and we ask that you please pay attention to the safety signage when displayed, as some locations may have different procedures for serving you. Just a little effort here will go a long way. We thank you for your continued support and cooperation in keeping our guests and staff healthy and safe, as well as our local businesses open. So come on out today and treat yourself to any number of these great locations here in Carson City.
And our last one is our museums and galleries.
What I am most excited about when people come to the museum is the fact that they're going to leave with a sense of the adventure story that is Nevada. That's what brings me to work every day, is this idea that this is a place of stories for Nevadans, for people traveling through Nevada, for young and old alike, This museum really loves to share those stories, loves to bring people into that adventure story of Nevada. Nevada's been a wild place, so the museum has a certain wildness to it, and we love that about it. I'm Myron Friedman. I'm the director of the Nevada State Museum here in Carson City. Welcome.
So I apologize, that last one was actually just to help promote the museum. Sorry, I misspoke. We've had a lot of content circling, but I wanted you to see that in the museum just because I think Zach did an incredible job on that one, and Myron as well, just really capturing all the feels in that one, for lack of a better term. But that's all that I have for you today. As far as content, Zach's been hitting the ground running, and from everything from the V&T drive-through Sienna Village to capturing more to finish the museums and gallery safety video. We've got a lot on our plate, including this, including the shoots that are going to be happening this week that I think we'll be able to do some incredible stuff with. So we're excited. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Questions for Lydia? No, thank you. Good presentation.
All right.
I know we're here for them and we're in Carson City safely, but at some point, I think this will end. Do you have in mind we're back promotion yet?
It's hard. I feel like we plan something and then it dials back and then we go forward again. So right now we're really kind of cruising on the Discover Your Capital campaign and focusing more on the Nevadans. So I think we're going to go that route for a while. But once we see a light at the end of the tunnel, we're going to definitely hit the ground running with
Great.
safe and open. More
We'll
messaging that
move
way.
on to future agenda items. David, I think you have something you would like to speak to.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I wanted the board to know that the past 2 Thursdays, I've conducted 2 lodging property meetings. So we've had several motels on those 2 meetings. And the topic was continuing funding for arts and culture. And I'm happy to say that all of the properties that I had the chance to do a WebEx with are in support of continuing forward with the 1%. And the plan will be to present an agenda item at our January CTA board meeting to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for, I'll say the quotes around it, but new 1% for June 1st moving forward. So that's the plan of attack right now. I know there's some other things with business impact statements, and we have to hold some things open for public input and public comment, but I'd like to get the party started at our CTA board meeting in January. So I just wanted to make mention of that, Chair.
Thank you. Any other requests from board members?
This is Bobby Rader. I have a question for Dave. Do you have an update on the RFP for the arts coordinator?
Yes. So the update is Nancy, hopefully tomorrow, will provide me with a copy that she was working on with Stephanie before the transition back to the CTA moving forward. So Chris and I will be looking at that this week, and I'm not sure that releasing it on Friday this week is going to be doable, but Monday we plan to release that RFP for the contract arts and culture individual, and then we'll let it sit out over the holidays. Chris and I were just talking about this earlier today, have questions due back from potential bidders on January 4th. Gives me a couple of days to respond, right, and to those questions, and then probably have the final submissions that following week. And then the next week, we'll get together to do the evaluation. So it's a tight timeline, everybody. We'll probably be, getting a contract in place with this individual the last week of January with the goal of them starting that following Monday, February 1st. So that's a little bit of an update on that front.
Okay, this is Bobby Rader again. I just wanted to offer my services if you need any help with the RFP or with the search committee.
Thank you, Bobby. I will take you up on both of those generous offers. So thank you. Yes.
Any other?
I have a quick question for James and Lydia. Is there a date that you're not, how am I trying to phrase this? Is there like if someone came to you and said, hey, can we do an event in Carson City this week? And the answer is clearly no, because we can't. Do you guys have, like, you'll entertain ideas for April, or you won't entertain ideas till June in your? Okay, but I mean, knowing that you can't really.
Yes, simply because it's usually the date is not the only date available. So I'm always trying to learn more about what it is that they're trying to do. And then we try to find other comparable dates that may fit within what they're trying to do. So
I'm tying it into what Stacy and David were talking about earlier with the projections. And if you know that you can't do anything in March, April, or May, it makes it easier with those projections.
For example, we were supposed to have a basketball tournament in May. We pushed that to July, then we pushed it to August, then we pushed it to September, then now we pushed it to January. Now it's not happening in January. So, I mean, it depends on the event organizer, and it depends on how easy it is. Like, for example, the basketball tournament, the facility is already set. It's just a matter of scheduling the date there, right? Some events require a lot more resources that aren't necessarily easily accessible, that require more work and effort. So it just varies depending on the event.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, when they typically, because I've read through the requirements that the governor has put into place, I kind of already know if it's capable to happen in the near future or not. But the fact that we're having that conversation, I think, is a positive for me.
Thank you.
Chair, if I could just add to what James said. My conversation with my colleagues, my peers that are running the other DMOs, and looking at just, again, the vaccination schedule, I think there's a reality that we're probably looking at the fall forward, just being honest with everybody. Maybe September, maybe there's an inflection point, come September. And again, separating events from conventions, like wholesale conventions. I've been reading a lot about what's happening in Las Vegas, and they're looking at 22, 23. But I'm really trying to be optimistic that fall 2021, we're going to be able to have some of these events. But I think for the first half of the year, I think it's going to be difficult and again, I don't pretend to be an expert on the whole vaccination schedule in the tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 and how long that takes to get us everyone vaccinated. But I think fall is where we need to probably be looking. And I don't want to speak for Mike or you, Steve, but I think that's probably the reality, from an events perspective, at least for Carson City, speaking for Carson City.
Yeah, and depending on the event organizer, I mean, some of these guys are very persistent. They'll tell me, if the governor says that you can do tournaments tomorrow, we'll be there this weekend, right? And so it's good to stay in contact and know that some are easier to put together than others because some don't require a lot of moving parts. Like the basketball tournament, it is much more easier to reschedule versus a mountain bike race.
Anything else? Stacy?
One question for an agenda item, and the other one just a query. Dave, have you heard, obviously I'm not asking names, but have you heard if they're of any interest in someone for that arts and culture position?
Yeah, I can say that I've had 2 individuals reach out without giving names or anything.
Yeah.
And also, interestingly enough, a company out of San Francisco
Okay.
has also inquired.
Wow, great. That's good.
Yeah, so 3, 2 people and 1 company have inquired about its.
And then in
impending
terms
release.
of an agenda item, since we're talking about having them start under contract on the 1st of February, and we don't have a meeting until later that month, do we, as a board, need to approve that agreement? Or can you work with Todd to maybe bring something to the January meeting that would allow us to I don't know, pre-approve or authorize. I just don't want it delayed, and I'm wondering if you've thought of that or talked about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so I have spoken with Todd and Nancy about that, and technically speaking, I have the ability to approve something up to $49,999. And since we're going to do this RFP for a not-to-exceed value of 25, I can move it forward without having to, come
Yeah,
back at a
just didn't want to
subsequent-
delay it. All right, great,
Yes.
thank you.
Mhm, yeah, no, good question.
Anything else? On the future. Our next meeting will be January 11th, 2021, at 4 PM. I think we'll be back in the Sierra Room, hopefully, maybe. But if not, we'll be here.
That's the plan, that we're supposed to be back, we were actually supposed to be back in there by this coming Thursday's meeting, but that, if you've walked in that room, is clearly not going to happen. But we should be there by our January meeting. We're supposed to be back in there.
Next, any board comments or announcements? No? Next, I'll ask again for public comment, one more time. Any public comment out there?
There is no final public comment, Mr. Chair.
All right, our last item is to adjourn, if I could get a motion.
This is Bobby Rader. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second. We're adjourned.